Captain Li Wan stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around the massive space station. The Galactic Council Station Harmony was bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. Metal walls stretched high above him, covered with lights that glowed in colors he did not have names for. Strange sounds echoed through the corridors as alien beings moved past him. 3 months had passed since Earth made first contact with the galaxy. Now Li Wan was here as Earth's first representative to the Galactic Council. He wore his best military uniform and carried a small bag with gifts from Earth. His hands were sweating inside his gloves. A tall, crystal-like being approached him. The creature looked like it was made of living glass, with light moving through its transparent body. When it spoke, its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Welcome, Captain Li Wan of Earth," the being said. "I am Ambassador Crystalla of the Vectari Empire. We have been waiting to meet you." Li Wan bowed politely. "Thank you for having me, Ambassador. I am honored to be here." "Come, Crystalla," said, turning toward a wide corridor. "The council is eager to begin the welcome ceremony." As they walked, Li Wan saw more alien species than he had imagined possible. Some looked like giant insects with multiple arms. Others appeared to be made of liquid metal that flowed as they moved. A few resembled trees that walked on root-like legs. They entered a huge circular room with seats arranged in rising levels. Hundreds of alien beings filled the chamber, all turning to look at Li Wan as he walked to the center. The attention made him nervous, but he kept his expression calm. "Distinguished members of the Galactic Council," Crystalla announced, "I present Captain Li Wan, representative of the species known as humans from the planet Earth." A chorus of strange sounds filled the room. Li Wan realized these were probably greetings in dozens of different alien languages. He raised his hand and waved, which caused several aliens to make what sounded like laughter. An insect-like creature with 4 arms and golden wings buzzed forward. "I am Queen Buzex of the Threnody Collective," she said in a clicking voice. "We welcome you to our community of peaceful species." "Thank you, Queen Buzex," Li Wan replied. "Earth is grateful for this opportunity." "Now," Crystalla said, producing a glowing cube from somewhere within her crystal body, "we have prepared a special gift for your species. This will help ensure your survival as you explore the galaxy." The cube projected a holographic display above Li Wan's head. The title read, "Survival Guide to Known Apex Predators." Images of terrifying creatures began to appear in the air around him. "This contains information about the most dangerous life forms in known space," Queen Buzex explained. "Every species must learn about these threats before they can safely travel between worlds." The first image showed a creature that looked like a shadow with teeth. "The Night Stalkers of Kepler 44b," Crystalla said in a serious tone. "They hunt in complete darkness and can phase through solid matter. Over 3,000 beings have died from Night Stalker attacks." Li Wan nodded and tried to look impressed. The creature did look scary, but it reminded him of the monster movies his daughter liked to watch. The next image appeared. This one looked like a giant spider covered in dripping green slime. "The venom crawlers of the Centauri system," Queen Buzex said. "Their acid can dissolve starship hulls. Entire colonies have been abandoned because of venom crawler infestations." Li Wan squinted at the image. "How big do these get?" he asked. "The largest recorded specimen was 12 meters long," Crystalla replied with what sounded like fear in her voice. "That's pretty big," Li Wan said, though he was thinking about the blue whales back home that were much larger. More creatures appeared in the holographic display. There were the Death Weavers, which looked like flying stingrays with too many eyes. The Terror Birds, which resembled ostriches with metal beaks and poisonous feathers. The Void Swimmers, shark-like creatures that could survive in space. Each entry included detailed information about attack patterns, survival strategies, and body counts. The assembled aliens watched Li Wan carefully, expecting to see fear or shock on his face. Then the final entry appeared. The creature was massive, with thick scales that looked like armor plating. It had a long snout filled with sharp teeth and powerful legs ending in razor claws. The text identified it as a bone crusher of the Outer Rim worlds. These are perhaps the most dangerous land predators known to exist, Kristalla said solemnly. Their jaws can crush titanium. Their scales can deflect plasma weapons. They're perfect killing machines that have terrorized the outer colonies for decades. Li Huan stared at the image for a long moment. The creature looked familiar. Familiar. A small smile began to form on his lips. "Something amuses you, Captain?" Queen Buzox asked, sounding confused. Li Huan tried to keep his expression serious, but the smile kept growing. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's just that this looks exactly like a crocodile." The room fell silent. Every alien in the chamber turned to stare at him. "A what?" Kristalla asked. "Crocodile," Li Huan repeated. "We have them on Earth. They live in rivers and swamps. People take pictures of them for fun." The silence stretched longer. Some of the aliens began making nervous sounds. "Captain," Queen Buzox said slowly, "are you saying that your world has creatures similar to bone crushers?" "Oh yes," Li Huan said, his smile now fully visible. "We have lots of them. Saltwater crocodiles can grow over 7 meters long. They've been around for millions of years. Tourist guides take people to see them all the time." Aliens began talking among themselves in urgent whispers. Li Huan could not understand their languages, but their tone suggested they were worried. Captain Kristalla said, her crystal body flickering with rapid light patterns, "You speak of these creatures as if they are not dangerous." "Well, they can be dangerous if you're not careful," Li Huan admitted. "But people live near them just fine. Some folks even wrestle with them on television shows." A collective gasp went through the chamber. Several smaller aliens fainted and had to be carried out. "Your species wrestles with apex predators for entertainment?" Queen Buzox asked, in a voice that was barely a whisper. Li Huan realized he might have said too much. He looked around at the hundreds of terrified alien faces. Staring at him? Only the really experienced people do that," he said, trying to be reassuring. This did not seem to help. The whispers grew louder and more urgent. Captain Kristalla said, "What you describe should be impossible. Bone crushers are a class of apex predators. They're killing machines perfected by evolution." "So are crocodiles," Li Huan said with a shrugged, "but they're just animals. You learn their behavior, respect their space, and everyone gets along fine. It's only about 2 meters long, but it's pretty cute." The word pet caused another wave of fainting among the smaller aliens. Queen Buzox looked at Kristalla, then back at Li Huan. "Captain, I must ask you a very important question. If these creatures you call crocodiles are similar to what we consider the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, what is the most dangerous creature on your world?" Li Huan thought for a moment. "That's hard to say. We have a lot of dangerous animals. Great white sharks, polar bears, box jellyfish, blue-ringed octopi, inland taipans, Cape buffalo, hippos, tigers, lions, grizzly bears, saltwater crocodiles, like I mentioned. Oh, and mosquitoes kill more people than any of those." The room erupted in chaos. Aliens were running for the exits, shouting in their various languages, and apparently calling for emergency evacuations. Some were praying to their gods. Others were demanding immediate quarantine procedures for the entire Sol system. Li Huan stood in the center of the mayhem, confused by the reaction. He had only been trying to answer their question honestly. Earth did have dangerous animals, but humans had learned to live with them thousands of years ago. "Wait," he called out over the noise. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." But nobody was listening. The great chamber emptied in minutes, leaving only Li Huan and a few unconscious aliens who had fainted during his explanation. He picked up the survival guide, Kube that had been dropped in the panic. Looking at the images of the galaxy's most feared predators, he could not help but think they looked like the animals from nature documentaries he watched with his kids. "This is going to be an interesting assignment," he said to himself as he waited for someone to come back and explain what had just happened. 2 weeks after the disaster at the Galactic Council, Ambassador Park Soman stood in Earth's first diplomatic embassy building in Seoul. She checked her watch and smoothed her blue dress. Today was the day the aliens would visit Earth for the first time. After Captain Li Huan's unexpected introduction, The council had decided they needed to see humanity's homeworld for themselves. Park. Salmon had spent days preparing for this visit. She wanted to show Earth's best side to their new galactic neighbors. The embassy building was clean and bright, with beautiful flowers in the garden and Korean art on the walls. Everything was perfect. A low humming sound filled the air as 3 alien ships landed in the embassy courtyard. The first ship opened, and Ambassador Crystala stepped out. Her crystal body reflected the afternoon sunlight in rainbow patterns. Behind her came Queen Buzzix, her golden wings folded against her insect-like body. 6 other aliens followed, representing different species from the council. "Welcome to Earth," Park Soman said with a warm smile. "I hope your journey was comfortable." "Thank you, Ambassador Park," Crystala replied. Her voice still sounded like wind chimes, but there was tension in it. "We are here to better understand your species and your world." Park Soman noticed that all the aliens were wearing some kind of protective gear. Crystala had energy shields around her crystal body. Queen Buzox wore armor over her natural exoskeleton. The others carried weapons and scanning devices. "Are you expecting trouble?" Park Soman asked. "We must be prepared," Queen Buzzix said. "Based on Captain Li Huan's report, your world contains apex predators that surpass our most dangerous creatures. We assume your cities are heavily fortified against constant attacks." Park Soman looked confused. "Attacks? What attacks?" Before anyone could answer, a young girl came running across the embassy lawn. She had pigtails and wore a school uniform, with a bright yellow backpack. The aliens immediately raised their weapons and activated their shields. "Mom!" the girl called out happily. Park Soman smiled and opened her arms. "Nari, how was school today?" The girl ran straight into her mother's hug, completely ignoring the terrified aliens who were pointing various weapons at her. "It was amazing. We went to the aquarium for our field trip." The aliens looked at each other in confusion. Small human child was running freely in what they assumed was a fortress world, and the adult humans seemed completely unconcerned about her safety. "Tell me about the aquarium, Park," Soman said, still hugging her daughter. Nari's eyes lit up with excitement. "We saw so many cool fish. There were these really cute baby sharks, and they were swimming around in circles. The guide said they were only 2 meters long, so they were still babies. The big ones can grow to be 6 meters. Isn't that awesome?" Every alien in the courtyard took a step backward. Several activated additional defensive systems. "Sharks," Crystala whispered. "Yeah," Nari said, finally noticing the aliens. "Oh wow, are these the space visitors Mom told me about?" "Hi, I'm Nari." She waved cheerfully at the group of heavily armed aliens who were now huddled together in terror. Nari, Park Soman said gently, "These are our new friends from other planets. They're here to learn about Earth." "That's so cool," the girl said. "Did you know we have sharks in our oceans? They're like the space sharks from the movies, except they're real. And we have dolphins too, and whales that are bigger than buildings." Queen Buzox made a sound like a broken buzzer. "Bigger than buildings." "Oh yes," Nari said proudly. "Blue whales can be 30 meters long. They're the biggest animals that ever lived on Earth. We learned about them in science class." One of the smaller aliens fainted and had to be caught by his companions. Park Soman began to understand what was happening. "Nari, why don't you go inside and do your homework? I need to talk with our visitors." "Okay, Mom, nice to meet you." Nari waved at the aliens and skipped into the embassy building as soon as she was gone. The aliens began talking frantically among themselves in their various languages. "Ambassador Park," Crystala said, her voice shaking, "that small human, spoke of creatures that match our records of void swimmers and leviathans. These are mythical creatures that destroyed entire civilizations." She was talking about marine life, Park Soman said. "Fish and whales and dolphins. They live in our oceans. Your oceans contain apex predators?" Queen Buzzix asked. "Well, yes, but they're just part of the ecosystem. People swim with dolphins all the time. Some folks even swim with sharks, though we don't recommend it for beginners." The aliens stared at her in horror. Park Soman realized she needed help explaining this situation. She pulled out her phone and made a call. "Dr. Kim, This is Ambassador Park. Could you come to the embassy right away? We have a cultural misunderstanding that requires your expertise." 20 minutes later, Dr. Kim Tae-ho arrived at the embassy. He was a friendly man in his 50s who specialized in animal behavior and had been chosen to help with alien relations. He carried a tablet computer and a warm smile. "Good afternoon, everyone," he said cheerfully. "I understand there's some confusion about Earth's wildlife." Dr. Kim Park Soman said, "Our visitors are concerned about the dangerous creatures on our planet. Perhaps you could explain how humans coexist with Earth's animals." "Of course," Dr. Kim said. He activated his tablet and projected a holographic display similar to the one the aliens had shown Captain Lee Wan. "Let me start with humanity's closest companions." The first image showed a golden retriever playing with a small child in a park. "This is a domestic dog," Dr. Kim explained. "Humans have lived with dogs for over 30,000 years. They are descended from wolves, which are pack-hunting predators." The aliens looked at the image in confusion. "You live with predators?" Crystalla asked. "Oh yes," Dr. Kim said. "Dogs are family members in most human households. There are over 400 different breeds, ranging from tiny companion animals to working dogs that can take down much larger prey." He showed more images: a German Shepherd working with police, a Border Collie herding sheep, a Saint Bernard rescuing people. "In snow, these creatures serve humans willingly?" Queen Buzox asked. "It's a partnership," Dr. Kim explained. "We provide food and shelter, they provide companionship and assistance. It benefits both species." The next image showed a house cat sleeping in a sunny window. "This is a domestic cat," Dr. Kim continued. "They are descended from wildcats and are efficient hunters. A single cat can catch hundreds of small prey animals in a year." "And humans allow these hunters in their homes?" one of the other aliens asked. "We invite them in," Dr. Kim said with a smile. "Cats help control pest populations, and they make excellent companions." The aliens began making distressed sounds. The concept of willingly sharing living space with predators seemed to frighten them more than facing the predators in battle. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the city. The aliens immediately activated all their defensive systems and prepared for evacuation. "What is that sound?" Crystalla shouted over the noise. Park Salman listened for a moment, then relaxed. "Oh, that's just the emergency services, sounds like." "There's a situation at the zoo." Zoo Queen Buzox asked. "It's a place where we keep animals for education and conservation," Dr. Kim explained. "People visit to learn about different species. Keep apex predators in your cities." Several aliens asked at once. "Some of them, yes," Park Soman said. "Don't worry, it's probably just a minor incident. The zookeepers are very experienced." News report appeared on Dr. Kim's tablet. The headline read, "Tiger temporarily escapes enclosure at Seoul Metropolitan Zoo." The aliens saw the word tiger and began their evacuation procedures. "Wait," Park Soman called out. "Where are you going?" "Planetary evacuation protocol," Crystalla said as her ship powered up. "A Class A apex predator is loose in your population center. We must retreat to a safe distance." "It's just one tiger," Dr. Kim said. "The zookeepers will handle it." "Just one," Queen Buzox repeated in horror. "A single apex predator can devastate an entire colony." "Not on Earth," Park Soman said. "Our zookeepers deal with situations like this regularly. Would you like to come see how we handle it?" The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. Their evacuation ships were ready, but their curiosity about these strange humans was stronger than their fear. "You would take us toward the apex predator?" Crystalla asked. "It's the best way to understand how humans and animals interact," Dr. Kim said. "Besides, my colleague Cho Min-ho is one of the best zookeepers in the world. You'll be perfectly safe with him." After much discussion in their alien languages, the visitors agreed to postpone their evacuation. They would observe how humans dealt with what they considered a planetary emergency. As they traveled toward the zoo, Park Soman couldn't help but smile. If the aliens thought a single tiger was terrifying, she wondered what they would think when they learned about the rest of Earth's wildlife. This was going to be a very interesting visit indeed. The convoy of alien ships and human vehicles arrived at Seoul Metropolitan Zoo within 30 minutes. Police cars surrounded the area with flashing lights, but the officers looked calm and relaxed. Many were drinking coffee and chatting with each other. This confused the aliens, who expected to see a war zone. "Where are your military forces?" Crystalla asked as they stepped out of their vehicles. Her crystal body was flickering with nervous energy patterns. "Military forces, Park?" Soman asked. "For what?" "The apex predator that has escaped," Queen Buzzix said, her wings buzzing anxiously. "Your warriors should be mobilizing for battle." Doctor Kim Tae-ho pointed to a man in khaki clothing who was walking calmly toward the tiger enclosure. "That's our warrior," he said with a smile. "Cho Min-ho has been working with big cats for 20 years. The aliens stared at the zookeeper in disbelief. Cho Min-ho was a ordinary-looking human in his 40s. He carried only a small bag and what appeared to be a simple projectile weapon. He moved with quiet confidence, showing no signs of fear or battle preparation. "One human against a class apex predator," one of the smaller aliens whispered. "This is suicide." "Let's get closer so you can see how it's done," Kim suggested. The group moved carefully toward the tiger enclosure. The aliens activated every defensive system they had, while the humans walked casually as if they were going to watch a movie. Several human families with children were also approaching the area, drawn by curiosity rather than fleeing in terror. The escaped tiger was a magnificent Siberian tiger named Biko. He was 3 meters long and weighed over 300 kilograms. His orange and black stripes made perfect camouflage among the zoo's vegetation. When he moved, his muscles rippled under his fur like liquid power. The aliens immediately recognized him as a creature that would be classified as a planetary threat in their databases. His claws could cut through most known materials. His bite force could crush starship hulls. His speed and agility made him nearly impossible to escape from. "In open ground, by the 7 moons, Crystalla whispered. "It's beautiful and terrifying." Cho Min-ho approached the tiger slowly and calmly. He made soft, clicking sounds with his tongue and spoke in a gentle voice. "Easy, Biko. You're okay, big guy. Just got a little excited, didn't you?" The tiger looked at the zookeeper and made a sound that was half growl, half purr. He was clearly agitated, but not in attack mode. "He knows that human," Queen Buzzix observed. "They have met before." "Cho Min-ho has been Biko's primary caretaker for 8 years, Dr. Kim explained. They have a relationship based on trust and respect." "Relationship?" several aliens asked at once. "With an apex predator?" "Tigers are intelligent animals," Dr. Kim said. "They remember individuals who treat them well. Go knows that Cho Min-ho brings him food and medical care. He has no reason to attack him." The situation became more complex when the tiger caught scent of the aliens. Their fear pheromones were strong and unfamiliar. Biko's pupils dilated and he began to pace, back and forth, his tail lashing. "The creature is preparing to attack," Crystalla said, powering up her energy weapons. "We must defend ourselves." "No weapons," Park Soman said firmly. "Your fear is making him nervous. The more scared you act, the more agitated he becomes." "We are prey animals to that creature," Queen Buzzix protested. "Our instincts demand that we flee or fight. Trust us," Dr. Kim said. "Cho Min-ho knows what he's doing." The zookeeper had noticed the tiger's increased agitation. He raised his hand to signal everyone to stay back and continue talking to Biko in soothing tones. "I know, boy. There are strange smells today. But everything is okay. These are friends." Just then, a school group that had been evacuated earlier began to return to the area. Their teacher was counting heads to make sure all the children were safe. One small boy broke away from the group and walked toward the tiger enclosure. "Yang Du-hwan, come back here." The teacher called, but the 8-year-old boy did not listen. He had spotted Biko and was approaching with the fearless curiosity that only children possess. The aliens panicked completely. "A small human is approaching the apex predator," Crystalla shouted. "We must intervene." "Stop," Park Soman said, putting her hand on Crystalla's arm. "Watch what happens." Yang Du-hwan reached the enclosure fence and sat down cross-legged on the ground. He looked at the tiger with bright, interested eyes. "Hello, big kitty," the boy said softly. "You're really pretty. Are you scared?" "My grandma says animals get scared just like people do." The tiger stopped pacing and looked at the small human. The boy's calm energy was completely different from the panicked aliens. Duan showed no fear, only gentle curiosity. "My grandma." Hezcat's Duan continued in his quiet voice. "She says you have to be respectful to cats. They don't like loud noises or sudden movements. You're just a really big cat, aren't you?" Baiko took a step closer to the fence. His tail stopped lashing, and his breathing became calmer. "That's it," Duan said encouragingly. "You're okay. Nobody wants to hurt you." Aliens watched in amazement as the massive predator lay down near the fence, close to the small boy. Abiko's eyes never left Duan, but his posture was relaxed rather than threatening. "Impossible," Queen Buzox whispered. "How does the small human control the apex predator?" "He's not controlling him," Dr. Kim explained. "He's communicating with him." Duan understands that tigers respond to calm, respectful behavior. Cho Min-ho used this opportunity to approach with his tranquilizer gun. With Baiko relaxed and distracted, the zookeeper was able to get close enough for a clean shot. Dart hit the tiger in the shoulder, and within minutes, Baiko was sleeping peacefully. "Is he dead?" Duan asked with concern. "Just sleeping," Cho Min-ho assured him. "He'll wake up in his proper enclosure in a few hours." The zoo's medical team arrived with a transport vehicle. They loaded the unconscious tiger carefully and drove him back to his habitat. The entire incident had lasted less than an hour. Duan stood up and brushed dirt off his school uniform. "Can I pet him when he wakes up?" he asked hopefully. "That's not safe for either of you," Cho Min-ho said kindly. "But you did very well today. You helped keep everyone calm." The boy beamed with pride and ran back to his teacher, who was too relieved to scold him. The aliens stood in stunned silence as the crowd dispersed. Human families continued their zoo visits as if nothing unusual had happened. Children were laughing and asking their parents when they could see more animals. "I do not understand," Crystalla said finally. "How did that small human survive an encounter with an apex predator?" "Duan's grandmother taught him well," Dr. Kim said. "She's raised cats all her life and understands feline behavior. Tigers are just very large cats with the same basic instincts." "You teach your young to interact with predators?" Queen Buzox asked. "We teach them to understand and respect animals," Park Somin corrected. "Fear without understanding is dangerous. Knowledge and respect keep everyone safe." Dr. Kim pulled out his tablet and showed them more images. "This is how humans have survived on Earth for thousands of years. We learn to read animal behavior, to predict their reactions, to find ways to coexist." The images showed humans working with horses, swimming with dolphins, training with falcons, and even walking among elephants. "Your species formed partnerships with other apex predators?" one of the aliens asked. "We formed relationships with many species," Dr. Kim said. "Some became our companions, like dogs and cats. Others we learned to avoid or work around. A few we domesticated for farming or transportation. This explains much," Crystalla said thoughtfully. "Your people did not conquer your world through superior weapons or technology. You survived by understanding it. Every animal on Earth teaches us something," Park Somin added. "Baiko teaches us about patience, respect, and the importance of calm confidence." Duan learned those lessons from his grandmother, who learned them from working with smaller cats. As they walked back to their vehicles, the aliens were quiet and thoughtful. They had witnessed something that challenged everything they believed about apex predators and survival. Ambassador Park Queen Buzox said finally, "We would like to learn more about your world's creatures. Perhaps you could show us your oceans next." Park Somin smiled. "I think Dr. Shin Haijin would be delighted to take you on a marine research expedition. She's been studying whales and sharks for 15 years. The aliens exchanged nervous glances at the mention of marine predators, but their scientific curiosity was stronger than their fear. "We accept your invitation," Crystalla said, "but perhaps we should bring additional defensive equipment." "I don't think you'll need weapons," Dr. Kim said with a chuckle. "But you might want to bring some seasickness medication. The ocean can be rough for first-time visitors." As they drove away from the zoo, the aliens realized that their understanding of survival, predators, and courage was about to change completely. Earth was not just a dangerous world that had produced tough survivors. It was a world that had taught its inhabitants the most valuable lesson in the galaxy, that understanding was more powerful than fear. 1 week after the zoo incident, the alien delegation found themselves on a research vessel in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The ship rocked gently on the waves as Dr. Shin Haijin prepared her equipment for the deep-sea expedition. She was a cheerful woman in her 30s who had spent half her life studying marine life. The ocean covers 70% of Earth's surface, Dr. Shin explained to the nervous aliens. Most humans live on land, but the real diversity of life is down there. She pointed toward the dark blue water that stretched to the horizon. Crystalla stood near the ship's railing, her crystal body reflecting the sunlight in nervous patterns. "How deep does this water go?" she asked. "In this area, about 4,000 meters," Dr. Shin replied casually. "But the deepest parts of our oceans go down over 11,000 meters. Queen Buzex made a buzzing sound of distress. "Your oceans are deeper than most planetary atmospheres are thick. That's why there's so much we still don't know about them," Dr. Shin said with excitement. "Every expedition we discover new species. Some of them are quite remarkable." The aliens had reluctantly agreed to this ocean expedition because they needed to understand the full extent of Earth's dangers. Based on their previous encounters, they expected to find creatures that would redefine their understanding of apex predators. Dr. Shin activated the ship's sonar system. Almost immediately, a massive shape appeared on the screen. It was moving slowly beneath them, longer than the research vessel itself. "Contact with large marine life form," one of the smaller aliens reported in panic. "Length approximately 30 meters. Initiating emergency protocols." "Oh, wonderful," Dr. Shin said, clapping her hands together. "We found a blue whale. They're feeding in this area right now." "Feeding?" Crystalla asked. "On what prey?" "Krill," Dr. Shin said. "Tiny shrimp-like creatures. Blue whales are filter feeders. They swim through swarms of krill with their mouths open and strain the water out through their baleen plates." Da-da-da-da-da. Aliens stared at her in confusion. "This leviathan hunts microscopic prey. They're not really hunters at all," Dr. Shin explained. "Blue whales are gentle giants. They're the largest animals that have ever lived on Earth, but they eat some of the smallest creatures in the ocean." A few minutes later, the whale surfaced near their boat. Its massive head broke through the water just 50 meters away, sending spray high into the air. The aliens activated all their defensive systems and prepared for attack. Instead, the whale made a long musical sound that echoed across the water. Then it dove gracefully beneath the surface, its huge tail flukes the last thing visible before it disappeared. "Beautiful," Dr. Shin said softly. "I never get tired of seeing them." "It did not attack," Queen Buzzix observed with surprise. "Why would it attack?" Dr. Shin asked.
We're not krill.
"And blue whales don't see large objects as threats. They're actually quite curious about boats and sometimes approach them. On our worlds, creatures of that size are always apex predators," Crystalla said. "Size equals danger in our experience." "Not on Earth," Dr. Shin said. "Some of our gentlest creatures are also our largest. Whale sharks can grow to 18 meters long, but they also filter feed like blue whales. Manta rays have wingspans of 7 meters, but they eat plankton." She prepared the deep-sea submersible for their descent. "If you want to see real ocean predators, we need to go deeper." The submersible was a small vehicle with thick windows and powerful lights. It could carry 6 people safely to depths where the pressure would crush normal vehicles. The aliens reluctantly climbed inside, wearing their protective gear and carrying emergency equipment. As they descended, the sunlight faded until only the submersible's lights illuminated the dark water around them. Strange creatures drifted past the windows like alien ghosts. Some had their own lights, blinking in patterns that looked like alien writing. "Bioluminescence," Dr. Shin explained. "Many deep-sea creatures make their own light for communication, hunting, or defense." At 500 meters depth, they encountered a school of squid. The creatures were 3 meters long with tentacles covered in hooks and suction cups. Their eyes were as large as dinner plates, and they moved through the water with liquid grace. Now these are predators, Dr. Shin said with appreciation. Humboldt squid are aggressive hunters. They use their tentacles to grab prey and their beaks to tear it apart. The aliens watched in fascination as the squid surrounded a fish and attacked. With coordinated precision, the hunt was over in seconds, Fish and Kristalla admitted. But they appear to hunt in organized groups. Very organized, Dr. Shin agreed. They communicate with color changes on their skin and work together too. Corner prey. Some people call them the wolves of the sea. As they went deeper, the creatures became stranger and more dangerous looking. They saw anglerfish with glowing lures and mouths full of needle-sharp teeth. Giant isopods scuttled across the ocean. Floor-like armored insects the size of house cats. Vampire squid turned themselves inside out to display spines when threatened. These creatures look like they belong in our worst nightmares, one of the aliens whispered. The deep ocean is like an alien world, Dr. Shin said. The pressure, cold, and darkness create conditions that seem impossible for life. Animals have adapted perfectly to their environment. At 1,500 meters, they encountered something that made even Dr. Shin excited. A giant squid emerged from the darkness, its tentacles stretching over 18 meters long. Its eyes were the size of car wheels, and its body was covered in scars from battles with sperm whales. Incredible, Dr. Shin breathed. I've never seen one this large before. The aliens huddled together in terror as the massive cephalopod examined their submersible with intelligent curiosity. Its tentacles touched the hull gently, as if trying to understand what they were. It's going to attack, Queen Buzox whispered. I don't think so, Dr. Shin said. It's just curious. Giant squid are deep-water creatures that rarely encounter anything like our submersible. It's trying to figure out what we are.
After a few minutes of investigation,
the squid lost interest and swam away into the darkness. Its bioluminescent displays faded until it disappeared completely. How do humans survive in oceans with creatures like that? Kristalla asked. We generally don't go swimming at these depths, Dr. Shin said with a laugh. But even giant squid aren't usually dangerous to humans. They live so deep that we rarely encounter them. They began their ascent back toward the surface. As the water grew brighter, they entered the hunting grounds of the ocean's most famous predator. Shark contact, the submersible's computer announced.
multiple large specimens detected.
Through the windows, they could see sleek shapes moving through the water with deadly grace. Great white sharks, each over 5 meters long, were patrolling their territory. Class A apex predators, one of the aliens said with certainty. These match our records of void swimmers exactly. Great whites are impressive predators, Dr. Shin agreed. They're perfectly designed for hunting marine mammals. Speed, power, and those famous teeth. As if summoned by her words, one of the sharks approached their submersible. It was a magnificent female, nearly 6 meters long and covered in battle scars. She circled them slowly, her black eyes studying the strange intruder in her domain. We are going to die, Queen Buzox stated with resignation. Actually, we're probably safer than you think, Dr. Shin said. Great whites are curious about new objects, but they're also cautious. She's trying to decide if we're food, threat, or just something weird. The shark completed another circle and then swam away, apparently deciding they were not worth her. Attention, it left, Kristalla said in amazement. The apex predator chose not to attack. Great whites are smart hunters, Dr. Shin explained. They don't waste energy on things that aren't food. They don't look, smell, or move like seals or fish. So we're not interesting to her. As they surfaced, they found a small fishing boat nearby. An elderly man was pulling nets full of fish onto his deck. When he saw the research vessel, he waved cheerfully. Kang Junwoo, Dr. Shin said.
Ah!
He's been fishing these waters. For 30 years, they pulled their boat alongside his, and Kang Junwoo greeted them with a weathered smile. Any good sightings today, Dr. Shin? You saw the big female again? Dr. Shin replied. She's looking healthy. Good to hear, the fisherman said. I saw her this morning, too. She followed my boat for about an hour. The alien stared at him in shock. An apex predator followed your vessel, Kristalla asked. Kong Junwoo looked at the strange aliens with curiosity, but accepted their presence calmly. "Oh, you mean the Great White? Yeah, she does that sometimes. I think she's learned that my nets bring up fish she can catch easily." "You are not afraid?" Queen Buzox asked. "Afraid of sharks?" Kong Junwoo laughed. "Been swimming with them for 15 years, they're just part of the ocean. You learn their behavior, respect their space, and everyone gets along fine." He showed them a waterproof camera with pictures of himself swimming alongside various shark species. "This one is from last month. I was tagging tiger sharks for the research program." The images showed the fisherman floating calmly in the water, while massive predators swam around him. In one photo, he was actually touching a shark's dorsal fin. "How do you survive such encounters?" one of the aliens asked. "Knowledge," Kong Junwoo said simply. "Sharks aren't mindless killers. They're intelligent animals with predictable behaviors. If you understand them, they're no more dangerous than any other wild animal." As they headed back to shore, the aliens sat in thoughtful silence. They had expected to find creatures that confirmed their worst fears about Earth's oceans. Instead, they had discovered that humans didn't just survive alongside marine apex predators. They studied them, respected them, and in some cases, even worked to protect them. Dr. Shin Crystalla said finally, "Your species relationship with these creatures is unlike anything in our galactic records. Every species on Earth teaches us something valuable," Dr. Shin replied. "Whales teach us about communication and family bonds. Sharks teach us about efficiency and adaptation. Even the deep-sea creatures show us how life can thrive in impossible conditions." "And what do humans teach?" Queen Buzox asked. Dr. Shin thought for a moment as she watched the sunset paint the ocean in brilliant colors. "Maybe we teach that understanding is more powerful than fear, and that cooperation is better than conquest." The aliens realized that their exploration of Earth was changing more than their understanding of dangerous creatures. It was changing their understanding of what it meant to be truly intelligent. 2 months after the ocean expedition, Captain Li Wan sat in the emergency session hall of the Galactic Council. The massive chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, all talking in urgent, frightened voices. The usual, orderly proceedings had been replaced by barely controlled panic. Red warning lights flashed throughout the station, and emergency broadcasts played in dozens of alien languages. Li Huan had never seen the galactic community in such a state of terror. Ambassador Crystalla approached him, her crystal body flickering with distress patterns. "Captain Li, thank you for coming so quickly. The situation has become critical." "What exactly is happening?" Li Huan asked. "The emergency message mentioned something called Void Devourers, but I'm not familiar with that term." Queen Buzox joined them, her wings buzzing with nervous energy. "The Void Devourers are creatures from our darkest legends. Ancient biomechanical entities that consume entire ecosystems. They were responsible for destroying 12 advanced civilizations before they mysteriously disappeared 2 million years ago. Now they're back," Li Huan asked. 3 days ago, they emerged from deep space and attacked the Aldrin system," Crystalla said. "For inhabited planets with a combined population of 8 billion beings, the system's defense fleets were destroyed within hours. A holographic display activated above the chamber, showing images from the Aldrin system." Li Huan watched as massive creatures, each the size of a small moon, moved through space like living ships. They seemed to be part organic and part machine, with hole-like carapaces that opened to reveal rows of harvesting appendages. "They consume everything," Queen Buzox explained. "Atmosphere, water, plant life, animal life, even the mineral resources of the planets themselves. When they finish with a world, nothing remains but a barren rock." "How many are there?" Li Huan asked. "Our long-range sensors detect at least 50 individual void devourers in the main swarm," Crystalla replied. "But they appear to be reproducing as they feed. Each planet they consume seems to allow them to create more of their kind." The chamber fell silent as High Admiral Vorthok of the Galactic Defense Force approached the central podium.
He was a
Massive, armored being from a warrior species, but even he looked shaken by the current crisis. "Fellow council members," he announced, "our combined fleets have engaged the Void Devourers in 17 separate battles. We have lost 60% of our ships with no confirmed kills on the enemy. These creatures adapt to our weapons in real time and seem immune to conventional warfare. Murmurs of despair rippled through the chamber. Several smaller species representatives began discussing evacuation plans for their home worlds. We have considered extreme measures, Admiral, Vorthok continued. Planet killer weapons, artificial black holes, even awakening the doomsday arsenal from the ancient wars. But each option carries the risk of causing more destruction than the Void Devourers themselves. What about evacuation? Asked a representative. From the Centauri Alliance. Can we relocate the populations from threatened worlds? Impossible, Queen Buzek said. The Void Devourers move too fast, and there are too many inhabited systems in their projected path. We estimate they will reach the core worlds within 6 months. Li Huan studied the images of the creatures more carefully. They did look terrifying, but something about their behavior patterns seemed familiar. Do we have more detailed information about how they operate? Feeding patterns, reproduction cycles, social structure? Why does that matter? Admiral Vorthok asked. They are unstoppable. Engines of destruction. Everything has patterns, Li Huan said. Even the most dangerous predators follow predictable behaviors. If we understand how they work, we might find weaknesses. Kristalla activated a more detailed display. These are our biological scans. Void Devourers appear to be a hybrid of organic neural networks and self-replicating nanotechnology. They communicate through quantum-entangled signals and coordinate their attacks with perfect precision. Li Huan nodded as he studied the data. What triggers their feeding behavior? Do they have specific preferences for certain types of planets or resources? They seem to prefer worlds with complex ecosystems, Queen Buzok said. Planets with diverse life forms provide more biomass for their reproduction cycles, and they work in groups. Always, Admiral Vorthok confirmed. They hunt in coordinated swarms, with different individuals playing specialized roles in the attack. Li Huan was quiet for a long moment, processing the information. Finally, he said, I need to make a call to Earth. There are some people who should look at this data. Earth's military forces, Kristalla asked hopefully. Not exactly, Li Huan said. I want to talk to our pest control specialists. The alien representatives stared at him in confusion. Pest control? Several of them asked at once. We have people on Earth who deal with coordinated swarm species that cause ecological damage, Li Huan explained. They might have insights that military strategists would miss. Captain Admiral Vorthok said slowly, these are not pests. These are galaxy-ending apex predators. So were locusts. From a farmer's perspective, Li Huan said, but humans figured out how to deal with locust swarms thousands of years ago. He activated his communication device and contacted Earth's Emergency Response Center. This is Captain Li Huan calling from Galactic Council Station. I need to speak with Dr. Park Jin-woo at the Agricultural Defense Ministry. Within minutes, Dr. Park's face appeared on the holographic display. He was a serious-looking man in his 50s who specialized in controlling invasive species and agricultural pests. Captain Lee, Dr. Park said, I've been following this situation through the emergency broadcasts. Fascinating creatures, these Void Devourers. Fascinating? Admiral Vorthok repeated in disbelief. They are instruments of galactic destruction. They're very advanced. Dr. Park agreed, but they show classic swarm behavior patterns. Coordinated attacks, resource harvesting, rapid reproduction when food is abundant. We see similar behaviors. In many Earth species, he pulled up comparative data on his screen. Look at these movement patterns. They're almost identical to migratory locust swarms. And this reproduction cycle matches what we see in certain types of social insects during population booms. Are you suggesting these creatures are similar to Earth insects? Kristalla asked. Basic behaviors are remarkably similar, Dr. Park said. The scale is much larger, and the technology is more advanced, but the underlying patterns are the same. They are resource consumption specialists that reproduce rapidly when conditions are favorable. If they're like Earth's pests, Li Huan said, then Earth pest control methods might work against them. Dr. Park nodded. We've developed very effective strategies for dealing with swarm species. Disruption of communication signals, introduction of biological confusion agents, targeting of reproductive cycles. It's possible these same approaches could be adapted for space-based organisms. You're talking about pest control methods against creatures that have destroyed entire star systems, Admiral Vorthok said. Scale doesn't always matter, Dr. Park replied. A locust swarm can destroy crops across entire continents, but the right pheromone disruption can cause the whole swarm to scatter harmlessly. Li Wan looked around the chamber at the assembled alien representatives. How much time do we have before they reach the next inhabited system? 3 weeks, Kristalla said. The Kepler 438 system, with 2 billion inhabitants. That should be enough time, Dr. Park said confidently. I'll need detailed biological samples and behavioral data, but I think we can develop a solution. You think you can stop creatures that our greatest fleets could not defeat? Queen Buzzx asked. We've been dealing with invasive species and ecological threats for thousands of years, Li Huan said. Sometimes the biggest problems have the simplest solutions. Dr. Park was already working on his computer, analyzing the Void Devourer data. I'll need a team of exterminators and some modified agricultural equipment. And I want to talk to Dr. Kim Tae-ho about animal behavior patterns. Whatever you need, Kristalla said quickly. Our entire industrial capacity is at your disposal. Won't need much, Dr. Park said, with a slight smile. The best pest control is usually the most elegant. We don't fight the pests directly, we make their environment unsuitable for them. As the emergency session ended, the alien representatives began to feel something they hadn't experienced in weeks: hope. The humans were approaching their greatest crisis not as a military problem, but as a pest management issue. Captain Lee Admiral Vorthok said as they prepared to leave, "Your species continues to surprise us. Most civilizations would respond to this threat with their greatest weapons. Humans learned long ago that the biggest hammer isn't always the best tool," Li Wan replied. "Sometimes you need the right tool for the specific job. And pest control is the right tool for galaxy-eating monsters?" Queen Buzzix asked. Li Wan thought about the farmers back on Earth who had been dealing with crop-destroying swarms for millennia. We'll find out soon enough. But I have a feeling the Void Devourers are about to discover what happens when pests meet professional exterminators. 3 weeks later, the combined human-alien task force arrived at the edge of the Kepler 438 system. Fleet Admiral Yoon Soo-jin commanded the operation from the bridge of Earth's newest vessel, the AA's Harmony. Like the massive warships of the Galactic Defense Force, the human fleet consisted mainly of modified agricultural spraying vessels and research ships. "This looks nothing like a military fleet," Admiral Vorthok observed as he studied the human ships through his view screen. "Where are your weapons of mass destruction?" "We brought something better," Admiral Yoon replied calmly. "Brought understanding." Dr. Park Jin-woo stood at the science station, surrounded by data displays showing the approaching Void Devourer swarm. Over the past 3 weeks, his team had worked around the clock to analyze the creatures and develop countermeasures. "Final analysis confirms our initial assessment," Dr. Park announced to the Joint Command staff. "The Void Devourers exhibit classic swarm intelligence patterns. They're essentially spacefaring locusts with advanced technology. Locusts that can destroy planets," Queen Buzzx pointed out from her position at the alien command console. "The principle is the same," Dr. Park insisted. "They follow predictable patterns: scout phase, feeding phase, reproduction phase, migration phase. Right now they're transitioning from feeding to reproduction, which makes them vulnerable."
Ow.
Chongmin, Earth's most experienced exterminator, checked his equipment one final time. He had spent 40 years dealing with every kind of pest imaginable, from termites to invasive species. Now he was preparing to face the ultimate infestation. "The beauty of pest control," Oh Chongmin explained to the fascinated aliens, "is that you don't fight the creatures directly. You make their environment unsuitable for them." "How do you make space unsuitable for space-dwelling creatures?" Kristalla asked. "You disrupt their communication and coordination," Dr. Park said. "Every swarm species relies on chemical or electromagnetic signals to maintain group cohesion. Break those signals, and the swarm falls apart. The massive void devourers appeared on their sensors, 50 creatures each the size of a small moon. They moved in perfect formation toward the inhabited planets of Kepler 438, their biomechanical bodies pulsing with energy as they prepared to feed. All ships, this is Admiral Yoon, came the announcement over the communication system. Operation. Pest control is now active. Remember, we're not here to destroy these creatures. We're here to redirect them. The human fleet spread out in a wide formation, positioning their modified agricultural ships at strategic points around the void devourer swarm. Each ship carried specialized equipment designed to disrupt the creature's coordination signals. First, phase is reconnaissance disruption, Dr. Park explained as his team activated their equipment. We're going to confuse their scout signals so they can't properly assess the food sources in this system. Strange electromagnetic pulses began emanating from the human ships. The signals were based on research into how Earth insects communicate during swarming behavior, but modified for the quantum-entangled frequencies the void devourers used. The effect was immediate. The perfect formation of the swarm began to waver as individual creatures received conflicting information about their targets. "It's working," Kristalla observed with amazement. "Their coordination is breaking down." Phase 2, Admiral Yoon announced. Pheromone confusion. This was Changmin's specialty. His ship released clouds of specially designed particles that mimicked the chemical signals the void devourers used to identify suitable feeding grounds. But these signals contained false information, indicating that the planets in the system were already depleted or contaminated. Several of the massive creatures began to slow down and change direction, apparently convinced that the system was not worth attacking. "Incredible," Admiral Vorthok said. "You're tricking them into thinking there's no food here." "Basic pest management," Changmin replied. "If you can't remove the pests, remove their reason for being there." But the largest and most intelligent of the void devourers was not fooled by the deception. It began emitting powerful override signals, trying to re-establish control over the swarm. "We have a problem," Dr. Park announced. "The alpha creature is adapting to our countermeasures. It's broadcasting correction signals to the rest of the swarm." Young communications officer Lee Su-ben had been monitoring the creature's signals from her station on the Harmony. She had studied marine biology before joining the space program specializing in whale communication patterns. "Dr. Park," she said suddenly, "these coordination signals, they're almost identical to humpback whale songs." "What do you mean?" Dr. Park asked. "The frequency patterns, the Calandra response structure, even the way they modulate for long distance." "Communication?" Lee Su-ben explained excitedly. "It's like these creatures evolved the same communication methods as Earth's whales." Dr. Park looked at the signal analysis on her screen and felt a moment of revelation. If they use whale song patterns, then whale song interference might disrupt them. "I have recordings of whale songs from my research," Lee Su-ben said. "Thousands of hours of different species, different seasons, different behavioral contexts." "Do it," Admiral Yoon ordered. "Broadcast everything you have." Lee Su-ben's fingers flew over her controls as she uploaded her entire collection of whale song recordings to the fleet's communication array. Within minutes, the space around Kepler 438 was filled with the haunting songs of Earth's whales. The effect on the void devourers was dramatic. Their coordination signals became completely scrambled as they tried to process the flood of whale songs that matched their own communication patterns. The alpha creature's override signals were lost in the chaos of overlapping whale calls.
Hold there.
Scattering, Kristalla announced with joy. "The swarm is breaking apart." Individual void devourers began moving in different directions, confused and unable to coordinate with their companions. Some headed back toward deep space. Others wandered aimlessly between planets, no longer sure of their purpose. Phase 3, Changmin announced. Relocation incentives. The human ships began broadcasting signals that indicated rich feeding grounds in uninhabited star systems far from any civilized worlds. The confused and separated void devourers, no longer able to coordinate their original attack, began following these false signals toward empty regions of space. Are you sending them to attack other systems? Admiral Vorthok asked with concern. We're sending them to systems with no intelligent life, but plenty of raw materials they can consume safely, Dr. Park explained. At dead worlds, asteroid fields, gas giants with no ecological value, they can feed and reproduce there without threatening anyone. You're giving them alternative habitats, Queen Buzax realized. Like relocating problem animals instead of destroying them. Exactly, Admiral. Yoon said, the goal was never to exterminate them, just to protect inhabited worlds. Over the next several hours, the scattered void devourers followed the human-provided signals toward the designated feeding areas. The threat to Kepler-438 was over, and the creatures would be able to continue their life cycle in regions where they couldn't harm anyone. Mission accomplished, Admiral Yoon announced. All human vessels prepare to return to base. As the task force prepared to leave, representatives from dozens of alien species contacted them with messages of gratitude and amazement. The solution that had eluded their greatest military minds had been solved by pest control specialists and whale song recordings. Captain Lee Crystala said over the communication link, your species has once again shown us a completely different way of thinking about problems. We learned a long time ago that understanding is more powerful than destruction, Lee Wan replied. Every creature, no matter how dangerous it seems, is just trying to survive in its own way. 6 months later, the Galactic Council had established new protocols for dealing with dangerous species. The Earth approach became the standard method. Understand the creature's behavior, write non-violent solutions to conflicts, and when possible, provide alternative habitats that meet their needs without threatening others. Dr. Park. Ginwoo was appointed as the first director of the new Galactic Biological Harmony Department. Oh Ching-min became the most famous exterminator in known space. With requests for consultation coming from hundreds of worlds dealing with invasive species problems, the Void Devourers themselves had settled into their new feeding grounds in the Outer Rim, where they continued their ancient life cycle without threatening any inhabited worlds. Monitoring stations reported that they seemed to be thriving in their new environment. Ambassador Park So-min stood in her office on Earth, looking out at the gardens where her daughter Nari was playing with the family's new pet, a rescued dog, named Cosmos. In the distance, she could see tourists taking whale-watching boats out into the bay. Earth, to Galactic Control, came a message over her communication system. We have reports of a new species causing problems in the Vega system. They're calling it a Category X apex predator, requesting immediate military intervention. Park So-min smiled as she opened the communication channel. Galactic Control, to reporting station. Military intervention is not recommended. We're dispatching our biological assessment team instead. Dr. Kim Tae-ho will arrive within 48 hours.